So in the next 6 years alone, we're going to have 24 million Americans that will be actually turning 65, as the first Gen Xer, like I said, has turned 60 this year. How do you find the right people to bring into your process to help out with social media and building out more of a tech stack within the advisory firm to communicate more efficiently? I think for those that are looking to add additional benefits for clients, that's the number one thing customers are wanting in 2025, is they're wanting some additional experiences involved with being tied to that financial firm. In 2025, we started to do AMP Assist. Those are now monthly calls that my team will do with advisors' assistants, and those have been going great.
Systems work, people fail. Welcome to InsureMark's Advisor Mentorship Podcast with Vice President Jeremy Hauser.
It's spring. Jeremy Hauser, that means 2025 is well underway. Your advisors now have, what, three and a half, almost 4 months in the books. How's it going?
We're doing well. It was a good first quarter here for us. A lot of momentum built off of 2024. And I mean, final numbers are trickling in here as we record today for first quarter, but safe to say we're up a little over double digits already for this first quarter compared to the first quarter of last year. And obviously it was a great year. Last year, our team did north of 48% year over year from the previous year. So a lot of that has to do with systems, processes, and a lot of advisors really just getting their mindset in the right place, having a lot of confidence, having a good conversation with prospects and clients that they're meeting with. But most importantly, I think they are just leveling up what they're bringing to the table with additional resources to help sell for them when they're not there. Honestly, I've talked about that a lot for the last couple of episodes, but that's something a lot of advisors are doing, is just really a lot of success last year from systems being in place last quarter from systems being in place last year, and advisors that are having a lot of systems in place right now for helping them in between appointments when they don't physically have to be there. I've just seen through the roof results for those advisors, but it's safe to say for sure the Silver Tsunami is also playing a good piece into some of the success as well.
I love the phrase Silver Tsunami. I love that. So you're talking processes, you're talking systems, and now we're talking, is this an increase in volume with this Silver Tsunami? What is it? Who is it? What does it mean?
Yeah, so actually a lot of people that I've been talking to this year, because it's a relevant year. So this was the first year for a 60-year-old, or sorry, a Gen Xer to actually turn 60 was in 2025. So
mere children.
Yes. Yeah. So we are in an interesting time, because a lot of the things nowadays where financial professionals for decades have had certain processes that have done really well for their businesses. But I mean, if you just look at the numbers, it's really insane. We've done a couple of surveys here as of late, but the Silver Tsunami is traditionally by 2040, there's going to be 80 million Americans that are going to be over the age of 65. And so in the next 6 years alone, we're going to have 24 million Americans that will be actually turning 65, as the first Gen Xer, like I said, has turned 60 this year. So advisors' antennas are up, because there's a lot of money in motion, but most importantly, the consumer and the prospects that our advisors are looking to have conversations with around retirement planning, just the way that they intake data and financial information might not be the same as baby boomers, is what we're seeing.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you next. You're talking about processes. What's the difference in the technology between these two generations?
Yeah, we've done, like I said, a couple surveys just to, obviously there's stuff from the day-to-day in the weeds of just hearing from our advisors, but we really wanted to poll. So we actually polled last year over 2,000 advisors. I mean, we've been polling advisors for the last 3, 4, 5 years now as well. And then there was another study that we looked into for last year, and that one was with Tiburon. It was a CEO summit survey that they put together. There was another one from Nitrogen, is another well-known source in 2023, and basically it's the great wealth transfer and money in motion is well on its way. $170 trillion of money in motion here coming up for the next 20 years, and going to the purposes of the next generation. 72 trillion of that is just going to be money that's going to be going generational wealth to younger Gen Xers, millennials, even younger than that. And so advisors have to make that conscience, like, just based off of what they've been doing for all these years, maybe in business for 10, 15, 20, 30 plus years. They have to start to adapt a little bit to technology, because with all that money in motion to the younger generation, you've got to consider doing some form of social media marketing just to stay relevant, just to keep your brand in front of the kids, of the current customers that you work with. Not just social media, but you do also have to start having further engagement with some of your current clients. We have some studies. I'll share some stats with you here later on. But I mean, when it's all said and done, people are wanting more communication more than ever today, and it's easy access. So it's not the same as it used to be 15, 20 years ago, where just meeting with a client one time in the year, just get a good old annual checkup and let them know where their financial situation is, and then off they go. People are wanting to know information at a rapid pace. So yeah, that's where a lot of advisors are also looking at hiring younger generational individuals for their business, because they don't want to learn the technology themselves. So that's where we help those advisors with outsourcing, finding the right people to put some of those systems and processes in place. But out of that 170 trillion though, so 72 trillion of that's the biggest part that's going to go to generational wealth. For the younger generation, there's 50 trillion that is going to be Gen X led savings and investments. And then also baby boomers with asset liquidation. So baby boomers just selling out of businesses, that's going to be 48 trillion. So that number is pretty crazy when you think about it. And I think a stat that stuck out from the Nitrogen survey was that the younger investors, they want advice, but only 13% of all firms have contacted the client's children. 13%. So
That's low hanging fruit. Come on.
that is pretty low hanging fruit. Yeah, and I think that's where the opportunity lies, though, too. So a lot of our advisors have systems in play. I was talking to one of my advisors 2 days ago before this recording, and that's part of their process. They do a whole thing where they actually have the children involved. They do webinars for the children, but basically they don't rule out working with the kids because of their minimums. If they look at it as if the client that they currently work with has sufficient assets to be a customer and hits the minimum for that advisor, then they're willing to take on the younger child as well to become a client. And just, even if it is just a couple $1,000, set up a Roth, set up some life insurance, just to keep that relationship starting. So 13%, I mean, it just blows my mind. Do you have clients in their late 70s or even their late 80s that are holding non-qualified annuities with a significant amount of capital gains and no desire to use these accounts for income? One America's Instant Decision LTC annuity strategy provides you the ability to help your clients eliminate taxes on all gains when used for extended care, and includes a dedicated claims concierge service for policyholders and their families. Available on an index or fixed chassis through the age of 87, with only 4 simple health-related knockout questions required. For more information on One America, an A+ AM Best rated mutual carrier, or the 4 knockout questions for this solution for your clients, go to www.insuremarkamp.com/Jeremy and click on Learn More.
Really, I mean, absolutely, you want to get involved with the kids. Makes perfect sense. And that also brings up the fact that here you're talking about a huge pool of people looking for advisors, and yet I keep hearing that there are fewer advisors coming into the field.
Yeah, it's now I I see the same statistics, and it is very accurate, but that's where the opportunity lies. And that's where advisors, because the whole meeting that we had in Founders Club out in Miami, Florida, is about thinking bigger. And a lot of the individual entrepreneurial advisors we work with, they left the event realizing that, you know what, I'm not a salesperson. I am running a business. So they have been fiercely looking to hire additional staff members. They are looking for succession plans themselves, bringing in younger advisors, people that might not even be advisors today, but they're just finding good people to bring into the business because the opportunity and the writing's on the wall. It's just it's the golden years of what our advisors are currently doing when it comes to retirement planning and protecting assets. So it's just finding the right people and putting the right systems in place to make sure that individual is successful. But also in those surveys we did have, we found that there are some challenges this year, and that might be one of them. Is really just how do you find the right people to bring into your process to help out with social media and building out more of a tech stack within the advisory firm to communicate more efficiently.
Are you seeing a change or a shift in the services that advisors are offering?
Slowly, very slowly, but yes. So change is not the easiest thing. I mean, you've heard it probably before. I mean, I've recently read a book, and I think the mind processes like 28,000 thoughts a day. And usually a lot of your habits by the time you're 35 years old, which is obviously almost half of the age of what the average financial advisor is nowadays, that does financial planning and retirement planning. But by the time you're 35 years old, most of your habits are stuck in place. So it's very tough to change. So that's where I think for those that are looking to add additional benefits for clients, that's the number one thing customers are wanting in 2025 is they're wanting some additional experiences involved with being tied to that financial firm. So they don't just want, like I said, the one time a year check in and tell me the numbers and keep it dry and move on. A lot of people nowadays want a little bit more out of that relationship with their financial advisor. So that's one of the biggest ones that we actually saw. There's, I'd say, 5 main things from the survey itself that we found. So that was one of the biggest challenges. Another one was closing the client acquisition gap. So the top organic growing firms closed 7 out of 10 leads. So that was something very fascinating. So the top firms are closing 7 out of 10 leads. But we found when we surveyed all these advisors that the ones that came in and they would be classified as basically the lower performing firms, they're only closing roughly 2 out of the 10 leads that they're getting in front of. And so that's data that we got from a survey according to Herbers and Company. And so what that tells us is that advisors are really struggling, the ones that are low performing compared to the high performing, with the process of what's selling for them when they're not there and how they're able to build trust and credibility with new people when they come into the firm itself, or when the prospect comes in and has a conversation with the advisor. And if it's only up to the advisor to tell the story, and the advisor, like a doctor, is having to follow up with that prospect, and then the doctor afterwards is also the one sending all the documents, and it's all just coming from the advisor, a little tough to build trust and credibility if they look at you more as a salesman as opposed to a doctor with a team underneath you.
So you are seeing a definite difference in tactics used by the high growth firms versus the, let's say, lower growth firms.
We are. And that's where, and like I said, going back to, by the time you're 35 years old, it's tough to change. So if an advisor's been doing something for 15, 20 plus years, 30 years even, it's tough for them to give away the keys to the kingdom of what they're doing and let people in, because their way is the best way. And usually, they have some really good processes that got them to where they're at. But as things have started to evolve more, we're now starting to see more advisors become open to wanting to put similar parallels in place to communicate the right way to the Gen Xer, the millennial, and possibly look into marketing avenues that they have never done and never thought that they would even want to do as well too.
I find it amazing that they're not targeting the next generation. This has been talked about for years. Get the kids involved. I think it's a great tactic for whatever size firm you have.
I couldn't agree more. And that's a lot of the advisors as they talk to us on a daily basis. They really share the fact that, it's always been that big thing, especially the last 10 years, is the kids don't have the money. So it's almost like the money's not there. So I'm just going to focus all my time with the customers I currently have a relationship with. That's where my time's going to go. And once again, the kids just don't have the money, but
it's an investment.
It is an investment. And actually, going back to another advisor I spoke to last week, they're starting to see their kids, the clients of theirs, the kids that might be in their 30s and 40s, they actually have more wealth than the parents.
Okay.
So, and it's not all the time, but it is there as well too. So it becomes one of those just it's just opportunity. It's just, but you don't know unless you put yourself in a good place. And so, there's tactics to have a conversation and bring the kids, get them involved with the process instead of you having to market to them essentially. Because at the end of the day, especially if they're doing annuities or if they're doing life insurance with these customers, you're going to see the kids' information on the beneficiary form. So it's very low hanging fruit, as you mentioned earlier, to strike up a relationship or a conversation with them, or at least get them to subscribe to any of your social media, because that's where they're consuming data and content every day on YouTube or on Facebook or on LinkedIn or wherever your brand can be found on social media. That's the low hanging fruit, is just get those beneficiaries to subscribe or connect with your firm on those platforms. And it's just automatic. You're just constantly keeping your brand in front of them. So at least that helps nurture that relationship as well too. For those not familiar with North American, they are a 139-year-old employee-owned company specializing in annuities and life insurance. They hold A-plus ratings with AM Best, S&P, and also Fitch. They had a record annuity year in 2024 with just over $7 billion of issued business that was balanced between guaranteed income and accumulation-focused fixed index annuities. In partnership with Annexus, in 2024, the Secure Horizon suite of fixed index annuities was presented with the Deal of the Year Annuities Award by SRP Americas. The award recognizes excellence in annuity products based on performance, customer satisfaction, and sales volume. From an ease of business standpoint, North American has consistently issued in good order cash with app business within 24 to 48 hours via the Firelight e-app platform. And they just announced a first to market capability within the platform, the ability for the client to take a picture of a check and submit it right along with the e-application. That means instant issue on in good order business and commissions paid that much quicker. If you are looking for an employee-owned industry leader in the annuity space that gets business issued fast and you paid commissions faster, North American is that company. For more information around North American's competitive advantages, go to www.insuremarkamp.com/Jeremy and click on Learn More. North American, prepare for your financial future.
Well, Jeremy, what are some other areas where you try to help advisors see what they might be missing?
One of the main reasons, or one of the main things that we've started to see for the last 4 years now, is advisors putting automatic drip systems in place. Meaning, do you even know what that means? I'm pretty sure you would. So for drip systems, if a prospect comes in, a lot of advisors may not already send out a newsletter or send out constant communication to just keep your name and brand in front of a prospect. So our team has partnered with multiple groups, but some of them, especially in our Catalyst platform, we leverage a system where you can go in and you can select certain campaigns for an advisor. So an advisor has just multiple topics that they can go in and they can select, not just off the topics, but a specific campaign that might be, call it 14 days of a campaign. So in that 14 days, just by clicking one button, you can add an email distribution list to that email campaign. For the next 14 days, a prospect or client, however you want to, whichever ones you separate them into, will be receiving an email, see, over the next 14 days. And maybe the first email goes out day one, and then the next email goes out day 6, and then the next email goes out day 14. And each one of those have a tangible document that the consumer can click on to download to make it real. And it's not just, financial numbers. It's very timely emails to get the consumer some data so they can see what's going on in the marketplace. But that's just a turnkey system. So an advisor doesn't have to necessarily do 100% of what that email is. They have the capability to edit those emails if they'd like, so they can put their own personal phrasing into that literature that's going to go out to their clients or their prospects. But just that alone, you just basically touched a client of yours over the next 2 weeks from email just by pushing a button. So at least they're feeling some form of engagement and getting some type of updates of just it could be political, it can be just any financial literacy at all that they're going to be receiving here. And that's just one very simple example. And a lot of advisors are hesitant to do that, like very hesitant.
Why?
It's just change. It's figuring out like, oh, that's too overwhelming. I wouldn't even know where to begin. And so that's where sometimes some of these systems are able to do it. You just got to pay a little bit more for that. Or sometimes even advisors qualify and we might pay for that for the advisor. It's because we know how important it is to get communication to go out on behalf of the firm to their customers, or communication to prospects to nurture those people that may have attended a workshop or a webinar. I mean, you can't just assume you're so great, which sometimes you are, but sometimes the advisor is so great that when they come in and they hear from that advisor, they have a great experience, they move forward, they do the appointment with the advisor, and then life just gets in the way, although they do want to become customers. And all of a sudden that client, something happens, a death in the family, they're traveling. Now all of a sudden a month's gone by, 2 months has gone by, and now it's only the advisor having to pick up the phone and call. There's just such a better way to consistently get your messaging and timely emails and notification to where you're not just chasing somebody down, but you're educating them to keep them engaged with your firm. And once again, one of the stats from our recent Advisor Insights 2024 Growth Benchmarks Survey. So, and we have that. So if anybody's listening to the show and they want this document, it's about, I think 11 or 12 pages long of just great financial statistics on what challenges are for 2025 for advisory firms, what the top growth firms are doing that are separating them from the lower growth firms itself. But going back to a statistic that's on, I think around page 7 or so of that survey, it showed that 56% of advisors who engage with clients on a regular basis, so that's just one time a month, they attain 56% higher gross revenue than those who don't, just by communicating at least one time. So that could be a newsletter each month that goes out. That can be a phone call. That can be some form of communication to the client. Those firms' revenue are 56% higher than the lower firms that don't do anything additional than the meeting with the client. Have you heard of Ibexus? Ibexus is an insurance provider that makes retirement planning simple with competitive products, strong partnerships, and seamless business processes. The FIA Plus offers premium bonuses, bailout features, and flexibility for additional growth potential based on risk preferences, all at no charge. The Wealth Defender series provides options for guaranteed par rates or premium bonuses, plus an enhanced ADL waiver for added security. With an A- AM Best rating, exclusive distribution, and 100% digital processing, Ibexus delivers strength, efficiency, and a high-quality experience. For more information on Ibexus, go to www.insuremarkamp.com/Jeremy and click on Learn More.
How about specific moments that matter in a customer's life?
Oh, I mean, that's huge too, because now that's more of the relationship. So the emotional side. So advisors that are sending out birthday cards, advisors that are, I mean, I have advisors that do a whole thing with birthday cakes. So like the clients, if they have some of their top clients that they do a birthday cake, they'll invite a couple of their friends to the actual, like it might be a lunch. So they'll do a lunch and then the advisor will pick up the tab. They won't even go to the event itself, but the advisor will come and they'll just drop off a cake for the birthday itself. Because that's the whole thing. I think I've talked about that
Yeah, you
before,
did.
but that
Yeah.
that still does really well. Because obviously the advisor, they don't need to stay there because that would just screw it up. So they let the clients talk on behalf of the advisors. So
Exactly.
so birthdays, client appreciation events, there's anniversaries. Um, pickleball is a big thing, a huge thing, especially for baby boomers and all generations, really, millennials, Gen X. So some advisors will actually hire coaches to teach pickleball.
Oh dear.
Um,
I'm sorry. Pickleball, I just haven't gotten into yet.
Oh, Patrice, but if you had somebody, if your financial advisor said, "Hey, I'm putting together an XYZ, I'm going to give a little update on the market, but I'm actually bringing in a pickleball coach just to teach you the rules." Would you be open to listening?
Definitely, most definitely.
That's the thing. Just you don't know until you want to be educated on it. That's the thing. And then once people see and then they see the wear and tear on your body is not as stressful as tennis or certain sports, then they get into it a little bit. But yeah, so I mean, it's just knowing your audience, knowing what your clients like. But yeah, current events is obviously a good one too. A lot of webinars, a lot of advisors will do. I'd say at least once a quarter at the beginning of the year, advisors will do a lessons learned webinar or an actual client appreciation event of just like the top 10 lessons learned for 2024. So guys were doing that in January and they just want to be informed. And if they're not being informed, they're going to find somebody else who's going to inform them. That's the reality of the business too.
All right. Jeremy, there's a lot of chock full. This piece is chock full of all kinds of great stuff here, but is there anything we haven't touched on yet that you want to make sure we do?
Yeah. So I think, well, one of the things I'd say for advisor firms, especially this year, so one of the biggest opportunities was within the survey is once again building out systems and processes to help out with client engagement. So I gave one example with Catalyst. So we rolled this out in 2025. We started to do AMP Assist. Those are now monthly calls that my team will do with advisors' assistants, and those have been going great. We just did one a couple days ago for the month of March, and so during that conversation for those advisors, assistants, so this could be their marketing person in their office, or this could be their assistant who does the paperwork, either one, or it can mesh. We share where most advisors are able to mine their business. So important data that's found within their annuity book of business to help out with streamlining some processes. But we also talk a lot about technology, financial tech, and the tech stack opportunity of getting on social media. So, like the last call we did, we had two important segments. One of the segments, we actually had one of the advisor teams who did an incredible job. She talked about within their firm what they do all the way from when the prospect raises their hand. So, if a prospect raises their hand to want to communicate or get a hold of the advisor either before a webinar or however that individual comes in there. She showed a flow chart of the exact process of what that firm is doing, of touch points, and really what the consumer is going to be receiving as a prospect via email. So these could be videos of the advisor, welcome them. Here's a name with the face, who they're going to meet with. Then it gives them certain information on the email that's important about their firm in general. Better Business Bureau gives them, make sure they know they're not a criminal, their records. but also it talked about the additional touch points from the team. So it's not just coming from the advisor, but multiple people in the office that are doing different touch points of either text messaging, call, and just literally continuing the communication process from first appointment to second appointment, pointing them to a podcast, point them to a YouTube quick video, invite them to an upcoming webinar. So really what Ampasys has formed into is just advisors, assistant teams sharing best practices amongst others, and then good dialogue amongst groups that are growing, newer hires from other firms, getting to ask experience assistants questions. So that's gone really well. And every single month so far, I don't know if I can keep this trend going, but I always roll out and introduce a new AI tool or some type of new tool that you can just be more efficient when it comes to posting on social media. It's incredible with the amount of technology that's out there. I'm not a huge believer in AI, but if you use it the right way, it really does cut down on your time. When you can use a tool, you can cut up just a regular video or put multiple pictures together in a post and then say, hey, in the little writing for the AI tool, say goals or mindset. And then all of a sudden, you now have a 30-second video that's created for you within 10 seconds that you can post on social media that has the pop, the flare, and all that stuff. Advisors are just like blown away that you can do that in just literally like 4 minutes. but
Amazing.
but yeah, so that's something that Ampasys is going really, really well for our team and any of the advisors that listen to the show. Obviously, when they work with us, their team can plug in, they can listen to the replays of that. So that's a big thing, I would say. And probably the last comment I would probably have is there was a statistic. I don't know if I've shared this one. Do you know how many people out of going back to that generational wealth question, how many of the individuals who inherit the money, so that when that generational wealth, when the assets, money's in motion to the younger generation, do you know how many of those individuals actually stay with the financial advisor? I don't know if I've shared that.
It's very small. I know it's the same thing with a spouse, especially if the husband dies, the wife is very likely to leave and go to another advisor. And it's because the original advisor simply did not communicate, did not get involved. So with the kids, if they haven't made the effort, if the advisor has not made the effort to interact and be with the kids, I would guess it's a huge number that leave.
It's incredible. It's over 70%.
Wow.
Over 70%.
It doesn't surprise me though, because if you're not recognized as an individual who might have some importance, I'm going to go find somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's something to think about too. I know previous episodes, I think it was like 2022, or I forgot when the statistic came out, but I think the stat came out in 2023 from 2022. But I think over 50 people or 50% of people in 2022 actually left their financial advisor.
Mm.
It was like a crazy stat based off of a survey of a pretty large group of individuals. And what that tells you, though, as an advisory firm, so if you hear anything on this, basically communication is very important for keeping the relationship with your current customer, getting involved with the kids, finding a process. We have a lot. We have actual tools now that you can plug in, not just social media, but tools to bring them into the sales process for kids. But the importance of having the communication going out to the right person and making sure that that person is just, you can bring in people every single day of new prospects into the firm. But the reality is, if you're losing people as you're continuing to add new customers along the way, the journey of 2025, but for every two, you're losing one. I mean, it's pretty tough to continue to maintain growth. It's all about retention. And so that's where advisors are getting a little more mindful of that. And that's why podcasting has been huge. I mean, I probably talk about that, although I'm on a podcast right now. I literally can't say that enough. Advisors that are doing podcasting, there's no better way to leverage your time more efficiently when you can point someone back to a podcast, or you're consistently once a month or twice a month sending out a full podcast of an update, and your customers can listen to that. And that is saving you that 30-minute conversation with hundreds and thousands of people that you're trying to get that message to. So that's something to just be aware of. But the 72%, just get the kids involved in the process. That is such a opportunity. And if at the end of the day, the number that I read off earlier, 13%, it blows my mind. The 13% of those customers are actually being reached out upon for the advisors. So I guess 72% does make sense.
It does. No. All right, Jeremy, how can advisors reach you?
They can go to the website, www.insuremarkamp.com/Jeremy, or just connect with us on LinkedIn at Jeremy Hauser.
All right. Well, as I said, spring is here. Let the season put new energy into your practice and use some of these ideas from Jeremy. Face it, some of these are really common sense, people. Follow his podcast, of course, and share it with others. I'm Patrice Sikora, and thanks for being with us.